My name's John Iammarino, and I had the pleasure of working with Jonathan de Guzman, JD. To the de Guzman family, you all knew JD as a loving husband, father, son, and brother. Like other law enforcement families, you sacrificed many hours, weekends, and holidays as JD upheld his oath to protect the citizens of San Diego. This speech is written to let you know about the JD as I knew him. A cop's cop, a hero's hero, a great friend, and a loyal, selfless person who I love like a brother. I was blessed to work side by side with JD for over 10 years as a squad mate, then as a sergeant. Before I begin, when I talk about JD's conversations, anyone who knows JD's and tells a JD story knows that it's not quite the story unless you try to mimic JD's distinct accent. August 28th, 2001, at 2100 hours, and July 28th, 2016, at 23:20 hours. Two moments in time that profoundly changed my life. August 28th, 2001 was JD's first day out of training and on patrol at Mid-City Division. It was a Tuesday night graveyard shift, and I was assigned to be his partner that night. It's crazy, 15 years have passed, and I've worked thousands of shifts since then. But this one I can remember like yesterday. A humble rookie, eager to get to work. This night was also a symbol of JD's career. At about 2 a.m. that night, we were flagged down by a store clerk at 47th and University, yelling that he had just been robbed at gunpoint. We drove north and saw the suspect get into a car. The pursuit was on, and JD was driving, and he was all over it. I still remember him driving and yelling, "Yeah, man, we're gonna get this guy. He ain't getting away." I wish I could join in his enthusiasm, but he was a rookie with 5 minutes on in a pursuit, and I was scared, breathless. The suspect eventually abandoned his car at 4200 Highland, and a foot pursuit ensued. We subsequently arrested the suspect 2 blocks away. JD was so pumped up and proud. "We got him, man, I told you." This would be the trend of JD's remarkable career. A career of valor and meritorious service. Medals, commanding officer citations, and heroism. On this night, I met a man who became a brother and who blessed me with 15 years of great memories. I worked with JD as a member of an 810 squad at Mid-City. We were just lowly PO2s pushing beat cars, but we often say these were the best years of our career. We weren't just a squad, we were a family. If you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. His partner during that time was Bill Kellner. He loved Billy. Their beat was 811, Normal Heights, the busiest beat in that division. But this didn't faze Bill and JD. Nobody took paper on their beat. They loved and took ownership of that neighborhood. As a matter of fact, Amira, weren't you born on August 11th or 8/11? Their beat? Coincidence? I think not. JD and I were reunited a few years later when I was promoted and returned to Mid-City as a sergeant. He worked on my C squad, then on Mid-City's crime suppression team. It was on the crime suppression team where he met his new partner for the next several years, Cassie Erickson. In 2009, I was transferred to the gang suppression team, or GST. Like Sergeant Bouchard just said, GST is without a doubt the finest group of uniformed officers ever assembled. A group of relentless and dedicated officers who worked harder than any other unit on the department. Officers from around the department would apply, but only a few were selected. In 2010, the team had an opening, and JD was our pick. This was JD's dream job, and I once again had the privilege to be his sergeant until I left in 2013. I still remember his first day. He gave me a hug in my office and thanked me for supporting him. He told me he would not let me down, and I told him I know. That's why you're here. JD was determined to be a great GST officer. I watched him for the next several weeks as he studied gang maps and researched the gangs he wasn't familiar with during and after our lunch breaks. In my 5 years at GST, he was the only officer I ever saw do this. As with every other assignment, JD was driven and excelled at what he did. Everybody liked JD. Yes, JD was a dedicated and hard-working officer. But moreover, JD's smile, personality, and distinct Filipino accent would light up a room. I miss seeing JD walk by my office yelling, "Sergeant Johnny Bombs!" I absolutely loved working with him. Now, 15 years is a long time not to have some stories. So, here are just some of the times we shared. As many of you have heard, in 2003, JD was awarded the Purple Heart after being stabbed during a traffic stop. I had taken that day off to go out a day early with some teammates for the Vegas police games. Jeff Blackford called me that morning and told me the news, but said not to worry. JD was only stabbed in the shoulder and he'd be okay. Later that day, I had a missed call and a voicemail from JD. The voicemail went like this. "Hey, Johnny man. It's JD. I got stabbed. How's Vegas?" Here, the guy just got stabbed and was more concerned about my vacation. But that's just JD. Now, as many people would say, you would never see JD upset unless he did something to his family or his friends. JD was as loyal as they come. One night we were partners and responded to a domestic violence call. The call went sideways as the suspect tried to push by us and exit out the apartment front door. The suspect and I crashed through a screen door and onto the second-story apartment landing. Within seconds, JD was on top of us, using the necessary force to effect the arrest. After the arrest, the suspect told JD, "Man, you were trying to hurt me." And JD, with a stern voice, looked him in the eye and said, "You put a hands on a brother, I will do whatever it takes to protect him." JD was serious, and this guy knew it. And the suspect said, "I'm sorry." JD was a selfless man. Years ago, JD visited family and friends in the Philippines. When he returned, his partner Bill asked him where his watch was. He told Bill he had given it to a family member. JD then continued by saying he almost came home with an empty suitcase because he gave all of his clothes and belongings to people back home. That's how JD was. In 2013, I had back surgery. JD and Bill surprised my wife and sat with her and supported her in the surgery waiting room until they knew I was fine. JD, Jane, and Amira also stopped by my house to visit and show their love and support. Throughout the highs and lows of my career, JD was always there, showing nothing but sincere, unwavering support. Our good friend and former squad mate is currently battling cancer. Just weeks ago, JD texted him saying he was thinking of him and he was gonna come up and help him. He finished that text with, "Love you, bro." Now, my last story is one of my favorites. One night, I was in Mid-City Division Sergeant's office at the computer. I was listening to Seether's hard rock version of the song Careless Whisper. JD came into my office. "Sergeant Johnny Bombs, what's up?" He then said, "What are you listening to? The Careless Whisper?" I looked up at him just like this and said, "JD, what do you know about this song? It's hard rock." He said, "Oh no, man, this is the George Michael. I love to karaoke to this song." He then busted out two lines right there at my desk. "I'm never going to dance again. Guilty feet have got no rhythm." I love this song, man. A couple of years later, my wife and I were at a bar on vacation. This bar had karaoke. So she decided to call JD and leave a voicemail as she sang or screamed Careless Whisper into the phone. JD loved it. So to all of JD's friends, the next time you're in a karaoke bar, sing the Careless Whisper one last time for him. 15 years of great memories and so little time to speak. Either going to McGregor's or playing basketball after second watch shifts. Going shooting with the guys at Camp Freedom at some unknown, undisclosed location in the middle of nowhere. Squad gatherings, JD, being on JD time, would always show up to events an hour or two late. But it always had a big smile and a tray of lumpia. CST and GST, going to our favorite sushi bar after work. The Mid-City Las Vegas trip, my bachelor party, my wedding that Jane and him attended. Taking JD to his first country concert, and Sean and I introducing him to the likings of Tennessee whiskey. Don't let JD fool you. He was country at his core. Or as I used to jokingly call him, the Filipino hillbilly. In which he would sing Blake Shelton, "We all got the hillbilly bone down deep inside." On July 28th at 23:20, arguably the darkest moment in my life, I learned that JD, my brother, was senselessly murdered. My life has been turned upside down since. I know it's said that God has a plan for all of us. Over the last week, I've struggled with my emotions, as so many others have. Sleepless nights, crying, followed by anger. Why? Why, JD? Why would God rob this world, this department, his friends, and his family of this unbelievable person? Then one night I woke up at 3 a.m. and had the answer. I guess God wanted JD on his team, and for that I can't blame him. He now has one of the best at his side. Exactly throughout my career what I always wanted. JD by my side. Now I also know JD wouldn't want this whole speech to be about him. He would want me to talk about the others that are hurting. Wade, I know you are here in spirit with us. I want to tell you how proud I am of you, and I know how proud JD was of you that night. After getting shot, you had the ability to keep your composure, return fire, striking the suspect, and put out the 1199. Your heroic actions and warrior instincts directly resulted in officers being able to arrest the suspect. You stayed in the fight in true GST fashion. The first responders that night, Kelly Stewart. I talked to you at the hospital that night, and I don't remember much. But I do remember you hugging me and saying, I did everything I could to save JD, Sarge. I know you did, Kelly. Thank you. To the gang unit who arrived to find their fallen brothers critically wounded, JD would be proud of the way you stayed your course. To have experienced what you did that night and to continue your job in honor of JD is admirable. To GST, continue to fight the good fight as JD did every day, and know that every neighborhood you go up in, JD will be up there with you. He will always have your backs on contacts, just as he did the last 5 years. To the SWAT officers who performed mission after mission that night and the next day, knowing your fellow SWAT brother had passed, fighting back tears and emotion to finish the mission as JD would have done. JD was extremely proud to be a member of SWAT. JD will always be in your entry sticks, tapping you on the shoulder and answering your call to give me a two, give me a two. To Mr. and Mrs. de Guzman, you're amazing parents. You raised a boy in the Philippines who became a remarkable man, a humble and selfless man, a man who gave his life protecting others, a true American hero. I thank you. Amira, you'll always be your daddy's little girl. Anytime JD was late to work, it was because he was doing something with you at school. And the way you spoke at yesterday's Mass, I can tell you, your dad is so proud of you. Your poise and your courage, you inspired me. Jed, first, I want to apologize. JD would tell me, Jed was asking me why I'm listening to the country music. I'm partially to blame for that. But JD always bragged about you, and he's proud of the man you've become. Honor him by being like him. Humble, kind, respectful, and selfless. And Jane, while your bed may seem empty, know that you're not alone. JD is with you and will always be at your side. I also promise you this: your family is my family. Bree and I will always be there for you. Howard, Jeff, Rich, Sean, Chris, Bill, David, Danny, and Cassie will always be there for you. I promise you. The gang unit will always be there for you. We will all always be there for you, as JD was always there for us. I am a believer that JD is in a better place. People always say that their loved ones are smiling down from the heavens. I know JD is in heaven, and I know he is no longer feeling pain or sorrow. However, I struggle with the fact that he is smiling, because the JD I knew would have a hard time seeing the hearts break with so many people that loved him. So please, the next time you cry, look up to the heavens and reassure JD you are okay. And your tears are tears of joy, because you are one of the lucky ones who got to know him. To the Guzman family, thank you for giving me the honor to speak about JD today. I want to end this speech with a couple of lyrics from a song by Toby Keith, which was JD's first country concert. It's called Crying for Me. I'm going to miss that smile. I'm going to miss you, my friend. Even though it hurts the way it ended up, I'd do it all again. So play it sweet in heaven, because that's right where you want to be. I'm not crying because I feel so sorry for you. I'm crying for me. JD, I will cherish our memories, and I will forgive always and forever miss you. I love you, JD Mountain.